I'm going to be talking about how the foster care system needs improvement and why I think it's a negative front. I'm doing my speech based off Angel Meachling's speech from a TED Talk on YouTube. Her speech was titled Growing Up in the Foster Care System. I'll be explaining how her life story also relates to common children factors in the system. The issue within the system is the controversy throughout the decades hasn't brought enough awareness, and it needs to make a change. So the foster care system has labeled itself for stealing, beating, abusing children that just need a loving home, and they can't do anything about it. My preview of my main points is the problems within the foster care system, that it lacks psychological support, education, and long-term factors. My first main point is psychological problems based on the child within the system. Most kids are just happy to be there. They're happy to have a last name to go by, a new roof under their head. They also have high hopes and expectations, which can alter their mind, which in thinking that they're in a better place now, which always isn't the truth. An example from her speech is her first incident when she moved into her first home. She was left with nothing. None of her belongings were brought to her, and that's super tough on a super young kid when they have nothing they recognize. My second point is the family. So the second issue that arose with her, and this is very, I guess, common with other foster care systems, is sexual abuse. She was raped by her older stepbrother at the age of 5. Sexual abuse is a huge factor when it comes to psychological problems, especially at such a young age. And then also when kids finally have the nerve to tell someone, like a social worker or their family, parents, or anyone, this turned into physical abuse on her end. This is not uncommon for foster care systems with any factors. This in her case resulted her to be called a liar, and they didn't want to be seen with a liar, so they'd lock her in the basement where she would break down and cry. The basement creates psychological problems, which ended up her in a psychiatric hospital for wanting to threaten and kill her foster family. So all of these factors lead to not knowing who a child's life, and it just turns into a blur from there. My second main point is the lack of education. Education is a lacking subject for most foster kids, moving around home for home, new to school, and every 6 months they jump from home to home because that's the limit they're allowed to be there. This means that they could be jumping to school to school. It's hard at such a young age to fit in and find new friends and new belongings. My second factor is that it's hard to find financial aid to attend school. Kids aren't getting the proper funds they need in the foster care system, nor the families, to even attend school at most ages. And then after a kid ages out of the system at 18, they struggle even more to find post-secondary funds or opportunities. If a child was lucky enough to attend grade school while attending at a foster home, they struggle to find post-secondary funds because once released from the system, you have no legal guardian or parents that you can rely on or that they can support you. School is harder and more stressful for them in their crisis of life. They can distance themselves from schoolwork and their work efforts. A third reason why I believe the foster care system needs improvement is the long-term effects on the child. Long-term effects last for children within the system and out. Angel Meachling in her speech told that she was picked up from her grandparents' house one day and told that she was never going back. And this is extremely hard on a kid to show up in new environments with nothing they recognize. An example from a speech growing up in the foster care system by Angel Meachling. That one Easter she was gifted a doll and chocolates, and the doll was too dirty to stay in the foster care home, and sugar was not good for a kid at that age. So this happens when a child lives under the roof of people that aren't their parents. Control and dominance takes over emotions. In the foster care system, it's common for a child to only be allowed to stay in a house for 6 months at a time, moving to a new house every 6 months. Once you age out of the system, your profile is ruined. So once you turn 18, your profile gets shredded, saying this, that they have no evidence of abuse, neglect, nor they have legal documents or personal memories to hold on to. With all this evidence and facts from that the foster care system needs improvement, they do provide homes for a child in need with a low amount of financial support. My counter-argument is providing a home even if it's multiple. In the United States, there is over 500,000 kids in the foster care system, which means it's very hard to find a stable home for every child. Just in Michigan alone, there's 14,000 kids in the system, but with over 10,000 households, 100,000 households, there should be a reliable home found. With 14,000 kids in the system in this region, only 202 kids are up for adoption. This small number is limiting for a child's chance to get adopted. My second counter argument is their funding issue. The foster care system doesn't get proper funding and can only pay for a child on a daily matter. They pay from $24 to $400 towards the child and the foster family. This money depends on where the child is placed. So children in rural areas don't get as much as children in urban areas. I know it sounds like it should be the opposite, but it's not. And this is the reason why kids aren't getting proper necessities that they need to have to live. The foster care system has many aspects to improve on, such as psychological issues, education issues, and long-term effect. This has always been an underlying issue throughout decades that needs to raise awareness for the kids. In my opinion, the system has a negative front and they need to realize the problems that are occurring and work to solve them. Kids should not have to go through these factors while growing up and trying to have a childhood. My last sentence will be, with the information of the negative aspects of the system, they do provide home for children on a low budget. Not saying that they're ideal homes, but there is a roof over their head. The kids in the system go through enormous amounts of stress and other factors that aren't appropriate for their age to handle.